Buffering. Buffering.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to episode 5 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And joining us tonight is Ashton Ray from 360 Performance. Ashton, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So, Ashton, you are a very well-respected, moderately respected firearms instructor. You sent over your resume to us, showcasing some of your certifications and qualifications. And man, I'm impressed. But with that, I don't want to steal all your thunder. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the folks?
I'm bad at this part. I'm Ashton Ray. Yeah, I have some certifications and all that stuff. Usually, none of that stuff matters. The important part is, motivation and ability to help people, and that's what I try to do. That's what it's all about for me, is trying to help people get better, trying to help people achieve their goals, and having some fun along the way, man.
Outstanding. So one of the things that we like to open the show with, so aside from the introduction to your firearms instructor pedigree, we always like to ask the question, who the hell are you? So with that, Ashton, outside of the shooting industry, outside when you're not behind the gun, when you're not on the range, who the hell are you, man?
My day job for the past, long time, don't want to count the years, I've been involved in either military or commercial nuclear power generation, driving reactors for a very long time. Started out as a Navy nuke, and worked in a different industry for a couple of years, and then ended up getting back into nuclear power, driving commercial reactors for the past going on 22 years now. Other than that, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a slave to a piece of ground and a house, just like lots of people are. Yeah, man, it's a lot of stuff going on, but the shooting part is the thing that I love to do. I sure as heck don't do it for the money, man.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do. And we might have lost.
So that, I guess.
There we go. We got you. A little bit of a stall. Sorry about that, Ashton. But no, man, that's fantastic. And you know what? If you're all about the shooting, or at least you love the shooting, I think you came to the right place. So with that, Kent, what's new with you, man? You've had quite a bit going on.
I am so. First of all, before I go any further, today is the best day in American history, the 12th of September, when we all acted right and treated each other the way we should have been treating each other from the beginning. So a moment of respect and silence and gratitude for all those of you who picked up the banner and joined up or did something in the service, cops, firefighters, all that. Yesterday, 18 years ago, was a terrible day. And today, 18 years ago, was an amazing day in our history for the way we treated each other. So just a little bit of let's have some respect for that. That's what I've got for my opening statement. Nobody gives a shit about my gun classes. Green Mountain Defense, come find me. We can get on their age if you want to, but September 12th, we can't just walk away from that. So had to throw one of them in there. Other than that, just living life, man.
Now, you know what, brother? That's an excellent point. I distinctly remember 18 years ago today, there was not an American flag available in any store.
Yep.
For miles from where I was. I can only imagine it was like that just about everywhere else.
Look how far we've fallen, is all I have to say. And we should really pay homage to that and give a little respect and leeway to each other. I usually don't do the politics thing on the show, as you well know, but we did some amazing things as a country today. So for those of you that were serving, for those of you that were on a ladder truck, for those of you that were behind a radio in a cop car or wearing a uniform, our hearts and our appreciation still goes out to you, no matter how far away we get from that event. So I just brought it down to the floor. Now let's raise it up and have some fun. So we have the pleasure tonight of talking to Ashton, who is known for, he's known for the gauge. He's getting better and better known for the shotgun stuff. Ashton and I talked a little bit today, and he was enjoying the fact that he's getting known for that as opposed to other things. And this is perfect because I just did some 3-gun and I suck with a shotgun. So I get to do my favorite thing ever and shut my mouth and listen. And Ashton is just going to do like an hour-long clinic on why I suck with a shotgun. So, there's that. Apparently, there's these things called shells that you have to load into this tube, and then you have to move a thingy, and there's levers, and I'm way too simple for that. So,
sounds like an open division shooter to me, Ashton.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So Ashton's he teaches a lot with Tim as well, and you guys just did an awesome episode on PNS where you talked about an AAR with the HOTS and all that stuff. So while the shotgun world is fresh on your mind, give us a little, 5 minutes on why the shotgun is the most awesome shooting tool on the face of the planet. And go.
Well, I mean, everything you pick up to use defensively or in a duty context or whatever tool it is you're using, everything has strengths, everything has shortcomings. Everything's a trade-off. Some of the big things that the shotgun brings to the table is there's pretty much not anything else available to the civilian community as far as being able to defend your home, or oftentimes even in a law enforcement context, that is able to bring as much power, is able to send the hate as effectively as a 12 gauge shotgun with the right load. Short of ordnance, you're just not able to bring that much juice. So, one of the things that people often talk about is, hey, shotguns don't carry much ammunition. And I actually saw a discussion online about this where this kind of got contested a little bit. But, based on my knowledge and based on training I've been through, discussions I've had, and all this kind of stuff, if you go out there in the world and talk to people that are using, whether it's pistols or patrol rifles or carbines, whatever you want to call them, people that are using those at a high level that know what's up. One of my AIs is a recent veteran of First Ranger Battalion. He was in the class you're talking about, the AR we did. He was in that class, and we asked him flat out, hey, whenever you are using a 5.56 rifle to deal with a threat, whenever you're inside a structure, is it one shot, one kill, bro? And he just kind of giggled and shook his head. He's like, no, man, no, not at all. And the numbers vary, but when you're talking about pistols, somewhere between 3 and 6 and 7 rounds is considered a serving. Depending on, all of this depends on whether or not you're using, what kind of ammunition you're using, what kind of distance you're at, all that kind of stuff. But somewhere in that vicinity, call it 5 rounds or so, is a serving of duty ammunition out of a duty handgun, or a self-defense handgun. Out of a rifle, out of a patrol rifle, you're looking at 3 to 5 rounds is a serving that you're going to dish out and then evaluate your work through your sights. When you start to do the math based on the magazine capacities of these things, 30 rounds or 28, and let's talk about that and have a big fight in the parking lot outside the bar after the class on that one. But you're looking at five or six, servings. And by the way, a shotgun oftentimes has about 6 servings in it because, and this all assumes hits, right? This all assumes that you're getting good hits in the upper thoracic triangle where they need to land. Misses we're not taking into account. So we're talking, 5 or 6 hits with a pistol. We're talking 3 to 5 hits with a rifle. We're talking 1 hit with double-aught buck. 1 hit in the upper thoracic usually takes the starch out of just about everybody. So whenever you talk about capacity, well, yeah, it doesn't hold as many rounds, but how many servings does it hold? Well, it holds just about as many servings. It holds a heck of a lot more servings than most pistols do. And oh, by the way, with a pistol, you got to get it right 5 times. With a carbine, you've got to get it right 3 or 4 times. Those are 3 or 4 or 5 individual, discrete, high-stress executions that you have to get right. With a shotgun, whenever you only have to get one right? So there's less chances of failure in either aiming or execution when it comes to that. So there's a lot of positives for the shotgun. There's a lot of flexibility. Now, is a shotgun a rifle? Can it do all the things that a rifle does? Of course not. No, of course not. That's why we have rifles, dude. But should it be relegated to the annals of history? In my opinion, absolutely not. There's still a very, very useful space for it, and I don't feel undergunned having a 12 gauge 870 that's been worked over by the folks at Wilson in my bedroom. No, I don't.
Very cool. So, speaking of worked over, there seems to be a disparity in quality over the last decade and a half of some of the guns that you can end up with versus not. So since we've got you here, why don't you talk about what you would consider to be a good baseline? Is it the 870? Is it the 590? Do you have to have the 1301 NASCAR rocket ship? What's a good bare minimum baseline tool for a guy or girl?
A great baseline bare minimum tool is a pre-2006-ish 870, especially a Wingmaster or a police model. The Mossberg 590s, the 590As, all those guys. Those at that time, based on what I've seen, their quality was a little lower than the 870. But if I had to go out and buy a new pump shotgun today, I don't know what I'd buy, because I've been seeing a lot of problems with new Remingtons. But if you're looking at older stuff, and oh, by the way, there've been, let me think, how many 870s have been made? It's a lot. It's like a bajillion. I don't know how many of them have been made, but there's a pile of them that have been made, and almost everybody has one sitting somewhere. And if they don't, they know somebody that has one sitting somewhere. So if you can get your paws on an older 870, they're usually relatively inexpensive. Get one that's in decent working order, and put a barrel on it that's of a useful length, 18 or 20 inches. I think you're down the road pretty easy. That to me is the way to get into this without busting out the credit card, without having to lube up the credit card so it doesn't squeal. Now, conversely speaking, my opinion is, based on what I've seen and what I've used, the best shotgun on the market right now is the 1301T. The Beretta 1301 is the best shotgun on the market as far as I'm concerned right now. It is just dead reliable. They work. They're robust. They hold up to high round counts very well. They take very little maintenance, and they're light. They handle well. They're balanced well. They have good sights on them from the factory. You don't have to do anything to them to get going. So, depending on where you're at, what your budget is and all that kind of stuff, the answer is older Mossbergs, and especially older 870s, are great choices. And like you said, if you want the new hotness, the 1301, in my opinion, is it. There's nothing wrong with the Benellis. There's nothing wrong with the M4s. They're great guns. They're big, they're heavy, they're expensive. And I don't think that they bring much, if anything, to the table that the 1301 can't do as well or better.
Yeah, I'm convinced Benelli charges by the pound on those guns. But but with that, so this is one of those questions. So I'm warning you. Since you did talk about the pump shotguns, what are your thoughts on the Shockwave style? I think it's the Mossberg Shockwave. The Remington TAC 14, I think, is what the Remington model is called. What are your thoughts on getting into something like that?
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because Matt Hott called me last night, and we had a pretty long conversation about this. What I can tell you is, I have an initial opinion, but I don't have a decision.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is, my initial opinion on that is, those are kind of like the equivalent of what the heck just happened.
You're good. We got you back.
Okay, my screen went black. I didn't know what happened. I got scared. Where I'm at on that is, can those non-shotgun like things be used? Yeah, they can. But they're kind of like a snub-nosed revolver in that, to me, they are something that is probably only going to be really, really effective in the hands of somebody that has a very, very high skill level, somebody that really knows how to run shotguns,
Okay.
somebody that understands how they work and what they do. And to be perfectly honest with you, what you're gaining in that shortened overall length, I don't know if it's worth what you're giving up. But I haven't had any time. I haven't had any time in a house with them. I haven't had any time moving through structures with them. So I'm not going to tell you that I have a strong opinion about it. But based on what I've seen so far, I don't have one, and the only reason I'm considering getting one is because I have instructor beside my name, and my first instructor mentor told me that if I was going to have instructor beside my name, I probably ought to know something. So it would be purely as an academic pursuit to see what can be wrung out of them. I know there's one fellow out there right now that I've seen that's doing some pretty amazing things with the semi-auto Remington version, is what I've seen. But there again, I just don't know what you're getting out of it exactly as far as handling it, moving it through structures in tight quarters and all that. I'm not sure how much you're gaining, and I'm going to have to work on that to form an opinion for myself.
No, I got you. And yeah, just so for the folks at home, and Ashton, by all means, feel free to correct me on this. At least my initial opinion on it is I can appreciate the overall length of these things for storage purposes.
Yep.
If you wanted to leave it in a truck behind a seat, finding a place for something like that in a vehicle is much easier than something longer. However, looking at it from the tactical perspective, if you're talking about shortening the distance of rounding corners or not having to have something sticking so far out in front of you, that myth has been dispelled for quite some time, where if you have a pistol, let's just say, and both arms are outstretched, aiming down the sights of that pistol, the distance in length between the end of that muzzle to your body versus having a shotgun shoulder mounted presented out on target is a negligible difference.
And if you're short stocking, if you're using a CQB technique of some sort, whether you're short stocking over your shoulder, you're compressed underneath your armpit, whatever you're doing, it's basically there's no
right.
difference.
Yeah, and that you're ended up with the same result of these non-shotgun guns. But in my opinion, I think you'd have greater control by pinning it underneath your armpit, or chicken winging it, or throwing it over your shoulder still.
Well, in the preview we talked about, you've been on some deployments and stuff like that. One of the things, especially for somebody like you, I think it's gonna click real easy, is when it comes time to interact with the world around you with your support hand.
Right.
What are you gonna do? Right. With an AR-15, you've got a pistol grip on that thing. You can hold that just like a pistol, basically. They ain't that heavy, unless you've got some kind of craziness. Unless you drug it through a Tapco catalog and you got all the stuff hanging on it.
Drag it through a Tapco catalog. I love it.
Or if you have a shotgun with a proper stock on it, you can put that underneath your armpit, and you can hang on. You can take that shotgun and you can put it underneath your armpit. And now I can open doors. I can manage people. I can do a bunch of different things with that support hand that I can't do very easily, so far as I can tell. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time with them. I've shot them. I've used them a little bit. I just haven't sat down and said, okay, I'm going to wring this thing out and I'm going to see what I can get out of it and what I can do with it yet. I just haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. But my opinion is that's one of its real shortcomings, is if you're trying to deal with your surroundings and whether it's dealing with people or animals or dealing with doorknobs or pushing stuff out of the way or moving stuff or climbing a ladder or whatever it is you're trying to do, I think it's going to become real difficult to move around, in space and time with that thing just hanging on one hand.
Oh,
Especially
absolutely.
when it's at the end, and it's real.
Oh yeah. So Kent and I have been proponents, and we've said in a previous show, we are all about the long guns for home defense and regular usage. The handguns are good for concealed carry and out and about, but in the home, the long gun is the way to go. Now, actually, in that discussion, we did we I won't say resigned ourselves, but we decided on the carbine for caliber capacity. But you're bringing a very cogent argument with the amount of servings per round of ammunition. Shotgun is the most effective when it comes to, if you want to talk stopping power, that's the way to do it.
Oh God, we just said stopping power on the internet. Here it comes.
Yep.
Hey, two world wars, damn it.
Yeah.
Or some shit like that. I don't know.
Well,
But anyway,
actually, a shotgun kind of does have stopping power. That's about it. There ain't much else. I mean, unless you're talking 4570 or 470 nitro or something like that in a rifle. I don't know. There's this whole kitchen physics thing. And the way I like to describe that is, as hard as the gun interacts with you, the amount of force it puts on you, it's equal and opposite. That's all it's going to give downrange.
Yeah, that's laws of physics. Yeah, that's how that works.
I mean, it's not just a good idea. It's the law, right? So, I mean,
that should be a T-shirt
for now. For now.
So this evening's T-shirt so far, we've got Drag It Through a Tapco catalog, and we've got It Ain't Just a Good Idea, It's the Law. If we get a 3-pack of T-shirts out of you, Ashton, I don't know what you win, but TJ, I'll tell you later.
We'll figure something out. But no, you're dead on accurate with that one. That's pun intended.
How many times have you fired an AR-15 in 5.56 like a pistol out here? How hard is it to do?
No, it's not hard at all.
Right, yeah, to manage the massive amount of recoil that comes out of that round, right?
And to be fair, most of the recoil felt is from the reciprocating mass of the bolt carrier group of an AR. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever fired a bolt action 5.56, it's really pretty uneventful.
Mm-hmm.
It's really pretty uneventful.
Yeah, absolutely. Kent, you still with us, man?
I'm sorry, my dog is staring off into a blank corner, and I was just trying to figure out if there was a ghost or a marauder in my basement. There are neither of those things, but yeah. Thanks, you weirdo. But she's just literally in a corner. I wish you had a camera. So, since we've gone down the rabbit hole of the different guns, our savior among men, Mr. Sling'N, has put together a 1301 that's kind of awesome, it looks like. Do you have any time on the Beretta Sling'N Tactical 1301 amalgamation, Ashton, or you don't?
I don't have any time specifically on Ernest's setup, but I do have a significant amount of time on the 1301 Tactical. I was a beta tester for several of the Aridus Industries products, the 870 Crom and the 1301 Crom. Those are the optic mounts that allow you to mount either an RMR footprint or an aimpoint, micro footprint optic to the top of those guys. I've been using his QDC carriers for several years now, and of course the Nordic extension that he chose to put on his guns is solid gear. It's good stuff. So as far as actually having one that came from Sling'N Tactical, no. But as far as having experience with all the stuff that he's got on them, and basically the same thing, yeah, I've got a pretty significant amount of experience with those, and there's nothing about them that's wrong. There's nothing about them that's wrong at all. Is it just me? Or
no, we can hear you. Kent, you still there? All right, so Kent looks like he's trying to fix some stuff.
No, I'm good.
Okay, there you are.
Your microphone's off, Kent. It's showing that on my end.
Yeah, Kent, if you have to jump out, jump back in, brother. So anyway, so Ashton, while Kent's troubleshooting, we got you back now, buddy.
Yes,
Okay, yep, we got you loud and clear. Go ahead, man.
that was weird. So I threw a Crom on the 590A1, and I like that a lot. I was thinking of the QDC. This is just a kind of a gear clear question, but it is what it is. I'm having the damnedest time trying to figure out where to mount the light, as far as recoil mitigation and not laying my freaking web on my thumb and forefinger open. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. There's a couple of different options on a pump operated, a slide action shotgun. It's tough. There are a lot of options. Not any of them are perfect. They all have shortcomings. If you mount a light with a coiled up pressure switch pad, those work pretty well until they don't, until you hang the cord up on something and yank it out of the back of the light. Now the light's down. Is You've obviously found, figuring out where to mount one such that you can operate it easily without it banging into your hand while you're running the gun. Depending on how long your arms are, how you mount the gun, all that kind of stuff can be an issue. And there's no one size fits all on that at all. I'm kind of I personally on my pump guns, I tend to use the Surefire forend. I know they're expensive. I know they're heavy. For me, that's not an issue too much. As far as, well, the expensive part, of course, it is. But as far as the weight goes, from a home defense standpoint, I don't expect a protracted gun in hand kind of time frame. If you end up yanking an 870 with a 590 out of the patrol car that happens to have a Surefire light on the front of it, I would recommend a sling, because when you get stuck standing perimeter afterwards, after you bail out of the car and you're waiting for everything to happen and you get stuck standing perimeter, you're going to want to hang that thing and not hold on to it, because, like I said, it adds weight to the system. But as far as ease of switching and reliability and all that stuff goes, I still think right now, as far as slide action shotguns go, the Surefire to me gets the nod. I do have one of the new Streamlights. Those are lighter. There's a couple of things that I don't care for about them. One is the new Surefires have the batteries beside each other, as opposed to one battery behind each other, like the old Surefires did.
Right.
And if you shoot the gun, if you shoot the gun with batteries in it, you'll tend to beat up the batteries, potentially beat up the springs, to the point where the batteries will deform and you'll lose contact and the light won't work anymore. So one of the common things that were done, in the past, was you remove the batteries while you're practicing on the range and all that stuff, and then put them back in. The new Surefires have the batteries side by side. They're less susceptible to that. The Streamlights still have stacked batteries, so that's a thing. You have to know about it. You have to deal with it. The other thing is the way that I shoot a shotgun. I use the push-pull method, and the shape of the Streamlight doesn't quite lend itself as well for me. So it's a little less optimum as far as purchase goes for my support hand or my forward hand, depending on which side I'm shooting the shotgun on.
Yeah, I was looking into that, but some of the same concerns that you just brought up were some things that you can't get the. Of course, I haven't had formal instruction on push pull, so I think I'm doing it right. What the F do I know? Maybe I'm not, but I had that issue where that wasn't working so good for me with the racker. The guy had the Streamlight thing, and I was messing with it. I wasn't super in love with that. So I've got it. I've got my, just like a rifle light, as far forward on the Mossberg, the the Magpul adapter thing as I can get it. I've got the
Yep.
Magpul stock. I've got it as far forward as I can get it. It's not as terrible as the first place I put it, but every now and again when I do something wrong, I catch the web of my thumb and forefinger, and I'm like, boy, that sucks.
Yep.
You man up and stay on the gun, but I'm always thinking to myself, it's like, you know what, Murphy's a motherfucker, and he's going to show up at that moment, right? So I wasn't in love with that idea necessarily.
One of the things I'm playing with right now is the Steiner light. If you're not running a magazine extension, it mounts in front of it. It basically replaces the magazine cap screw.
And Ashton, is that what you've got mounted on that shotgun behind you?
Yeah, there's actually one on this one. Yeah, they're pretty neat. They're handy. They just. Oh, I guess I don't need to show it to myself. They just mount instead. In place of the magazine cap screw. I honestly, the reason I bought it was because there was a sale and I saw them. I said, well, that's different. I haven't messed with those before. And eventually I know somebody's going to ask me about them. So I better run one till it breaks. And, so I can have an opinion on it. And, kind of figured out how to operate the light, the best, a couple of different ways to do it. None of them are great because it's pretty far forward, so you have to move the gun around pretty good to get at the button to turn it on. It's an instant on, or it's not an instant on; it's a click on. So depending on what light techniques you like or what you're trying to do with it, that's somewhat limiting. But I haven't been able to break it yet, which is saying something. Pretty much everything you hang on a shotgun, you can expect to either break or fall off eventually, and it hasn't done either, so I'm kind of impressed by that. I've got a couple thousand rounds on it, and usually by then stuff's, the stuff that's going to break easy usually breaks by then. So I've got maybe 2,500 rounds on it. So far so good. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying it's an option. And like I said, if you want a magazine extension, then that's out the window. That ain't gonna work for you.
I never even knew that was an option. See, we learn something every time. So this is that's something I didn't know was a thing until just now. So that's pretty cool. So I'll hit you with a one or two more shotgun things, and then we'll break you out of your shotgun mold and let you talk about the other things that.
Dude, I love shotguns. It's cool.
I know. So patterning, right, is a thing that needs to be done on a shotgun. So God forbid you actually pattern and know where your guns are hitting, much like a 0 on a red dot pistol or anything else. So, what do you find that guys and gals, when they come to a class, what do you got going on with patterning? Are people doing that before they come to you? Are they not? Do they know what's going on?
It depends. It honestly depends on the level of class. Like, folks that show up to Shotgun 360, that's a class that's, it's billed, and so far it's been populated with people that are relatively experienced, that have some base level of knowledge. It's not for somebody that's learned how to run a gun. It's for somebody that already knows how to run a gauge and wants to explore, push themselves and push the platform to potentially the next level, maybe a couple things they haven't seen. So that hasn't been an issue in that class. But of course, in entry level classes, you see it all the time. It happens all the time. So patterning, it's important. Every shotgun is its own animal. It's its own little black magic deal that it likes what it likes and it hates what it hates. And you can, based on what I've seen, you can take 6 identical guns and that are all the same manufacturer, the same setup, and none of them are going to act the same.
Interesting. So what? Not to lead you in, but I think I know what you're going to say. Flight control, is that the magic solution, or?
Well, it's not magic. It's just a known. It tends to in the right barrel that has the right choke, whether it's an improved choke or a cylinder choke. It tends to work. There's just nothing out there right now The Hornaday is making stuff too that has a similar type of wad that seems to perform pretty well too. But Flight Control is the one it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and if you don't know if you're not willing to go out and try all these different shells, I haven't really seen a gun yet that, with the caveat, I haven't seen a gun that has an improved or a cylinder bore, choke setup on it that hasn't performed better with Flight Control than anything else. So, now whether the gun's going to like number 1 Flight Control, or it's going to like 8 pellet double aught or 9 pellet double aught, that can be up in the air. But as far as comparing apples to apples, or apples to oranges, whichever one it is, comparing grapefruits to kiwis, it's definitely the way to go. It's definitely a great place to start. And one of the things that I often hear is, well, I want my buckshot to spread out. I want to have all that kind of stuff. And what?
I know. I was just sighing and went,
And there's a couple of things about that I'm not crazy about. One is, I've seen it over and over that if you have a pattern of buckshot or a pattern of shot that is, maybe it's 8 inches across or 6 inches across, as opposed to a 2 or 3 inch across or whatever. If you have a larger pattern versus a smaller pattern of buckshot, what I've seen over and over is, if you have an error in aiming or execution whenever you're breaking a shot with a tight patterning shot shell, you tend to potentially, your miss, instead of being here where your point of aim is here and you want your point of impact to be here, if you make a mistake, it ends up here or here, but it's still on dude most of the time. And now, of course, you can make an egregious error, but most of the errors I've seen aren't like that. But if I have a pattern of buckshot that's this big, and I make that same error distance there, it goes from here to off dude real easy. Mm-hmm. And the thing that the common thread throughout all of my training classes is accountability. It's muzzle accountability. It's projectile accountability. Whether you're shooting a pistol, whether you're shooting a rifle, whether you're shooting a shotgun, you're accountable for all those. You're accountable for all of them legally. You're accountable for all of them morally. You're accountable for all of them economically in the aftermath of having to use these things. So keeping all your shots on dude is the best place to be, in my opinion. And the best chance you have of doing that is with a tighter patterning buckshot. The other is the terminal ballistics of it. They don't act like a slug. They may be close together like a slug, and they may fly like a slug, but once they impact, if you think of a piece of plastic wrap stretched tight and you push your finger against it, it'll stretch so far, and then your finger will poke through and put a single hole in it, about the same size as your finger. And this is all stolen from Tim Chandler. Copyright Tim Chandler. Stealing your shit, bro. But giving you credit. But if you take, say, 8 or 9 of those in close proximity to each other, and you start that stretching effect, which skin and tissue is very, very, is stretchy. Whenever it gives up all its stretch, and then it rends itself, well, you end up with a big hole. Big hole's good. And then when they get inside, they move around like 8 or 9 different or 14 different little projectiles doing their thing inside. So, and this is definitely Tim, so this can't go on a t-shirt because he's not here tonight. But I'm gonna say what he always says. Buckshot's kind of like a party. Everybody needs to be there to get there at about the same time at the same place, and if they don't, it's just sad. buckshot is effective because it's all landing at the same time and it's causing that simultaneous stretch, as opposed to 8 or 9 .32 caliber pistol rounds landing one at a time in succession. So that's kind of it.
I like the analogy you just made there with the party and everybody arriving at once. That made a lot of sense. Since you brought up slugs, is there any application for a home defender to be putting a slug in his or her shotgun?
Sure. A home defense gun never goes outside of the house until it does. Not everybody. See, this is one of the benefits that I have. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, lovingly referred to as Pennsylvania by some. I don't live in a subdivision. I don't live in an apartment or a condo. The kids here, when on prom day, they drive farm tractors to school. And we get the first day of deer season off. It's a holiday. School's closed. So if you have to go outside to protect livestock, if you have to go outside to protect your pets, if you have to deal with things like that, say maybe your animal is tied up with another animal or squared off with another animal, right? You're protecting your pet or livestock, and you need to make that sort of sounds like a hostage shot, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You have a threat in the close proximity to something or someone that you're responsible for, and you don't want anything bad to happen. A slug can be very, very useful out to an effective range, depending on your setup, right? 50, 75, 100, 150 yards. It's all a matter of what you can do. So in the interior of a home, I'm not crazy about slugs necessarily, just because you're not that far away. And with the modern, the performance of modern buckshot, I don't necessarily think that there's a great reason for that. But if you do have to step outside, slugs are a viable option.
Okay. So, how about less than lethal in a shotgun?
If you're in law enforcement and you're trained on it and you're issued it, cool. If you're not, quit it.
Cool. On the same page there. It always kills me with the whole, like, we're going to use deadly force, but we're going to use less deadly force, so that makes us somehow morally, or I don't know. I've never really been able to follow that logic, but
Yeah, me either. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. I'm just going to say no.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Something else that gets parroted a lot is the 20 gauge.
Well, wait.
Oh,
less lethal. Bean bags are a great way to clean the barrel. Okay. Kevlar bean bags do a great job of yanking stuff out of your barrel. So,
There's one I was unaware of because I've shot exactly 0 of them in my lifetime. So, okay.
He's not wrong. And they hurt.
How about 20 gauge? Get the young lady or get the small person a 20 gauge. How about that one?
20 gauges are awesome. They're really handy. They're light to carry around. But what tends to happen is the folks that are concerned about using it, oftentimes what I hear is, well, I'm going to get a 20 gauge because it recoils less. Well, usually the guns weigh less. They're smaller. And then the amount of felt recoil is very similar, using a load that's going to perform, to some minimum standard for defense. So that kind of negates it. And if you really care about that young lady or that smaller statured person, get them to somebody like Rob Hott or Matt Hott or Tim Chandler or maybe me, and get them taught how to mitigate the recoil of the gun. And it's really not that big a deal. They'll be running a 12 gauge in no time.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and echo the expected cliche line here, where if you're looking at a gun for yourself or for a significant other, whatever gender or body type they might happen to be, if they are inexperienced with any of those platforms, hell, even if they are even mildly experienced, go get training. Get training.
Yeah.
Hell, even Kent and I get training still. Hell, Ashton, I'm sure being an instructor, there's still guys that you train with, right?
Absolutely.
So there is
Absolutely.
no
multiple times a year.
Yeah, there is no golden badge that you get when you hit so much time in the firearms industry where you are excused from continuing your education and developing your skill set.
Well, I can tell you that two of the guys that I respect the most in the industry, two of the best instructors on 2 feet out there, Tom Givens, who I'm proud to say, has offered to take me into his fold and mentor me along a little bit, and Rob Hott, who is just a master of the shotgun, and like a lot of people apparently don't know it, but he is one hell of a pistol shooter and can run a carbine and an MP5 too. By the way, he is not a one-trick pony by any stretch of the imagination. He does happen to have some championship titles with a pistol too, but those guys both go out and train with other people, and that was one of the things that again, my first mentor going back too long. I don't want to think about how long ago it was. Going back a long time ago, Dave Morford also told me, aside from that, if you're going to have an instructor beside your name, you ought to know something, that you're only sometimes an instructor, you're always a student if you're going to be any good at this.
Amen to that, man.
And that's been something that I've really hung my hat on, and I really believe. And I've taken classes this year. I'm not done. I've got another class I'm taking this month, and I'll be taking more classes. I've got a class scheduled for January next year that I'll be a student in, and I'll be in as a student. I English well, but yeah. Go get some training. Go get some more training. If you think you have enough training, you're wrong. Go get some more. It's not something you can do enough of.
Yeah. So now that we've beat you to death on the shotgun a little bit, but thanks for being it's nice to have a shotgun disciple around, because there aren't too many of y'all around. I mean, you guys, you and Tim Fisher, the Hots,
Tom Givens, Lee Weems. There's some people out there. There's some people out there you should go train with.
Did you say Lee Weems?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Okay.
Chief Lee Weems.
Chief Deputy.
Chief Deputy Lee Weems.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He's sketchy. He tried to give me a taco once. I didn't take it.
So besides the age, if you're out and about in public Neverland, assuming that you're not walking into Wally World with a shotgun slung, what are you carrying for a CCW gun these days, and what are you liking, and what are you doing in the pistol world?
Pistol wise, I've been carrying Smith & Wesson M&Ps since my friend Todd Green started doing the torture test that he did for them a long time ago. What, 10 years ago almost? They're fine. There's a bunch of great guns out there. I've got several different versions of the M&Ps. I like them because, I'm an armorer. I have all the stuff. Nothing's come along that's convinced me to go say, okay, take all this money that you spent on all this support gear and all these holsters and all these magazines and all this stuff and set it aside and go get the new hotness because it's still front sight, press, grip, all that stuff, and they all work really pretty much the same. SIG 320 is great. The Glocks are Glocks. It's a Glock world. Get used to it. One of the things I just helped out a customer or a client today. He had a Glock 26 and it wasn't working for him. The combination of his hands, his strength level, all that kind of stuff, it wasn't working for him. He couldn't reach the controls. Somebody at a gun store sold him a Glock because they liked Glocks, and without knowing or caring or whichever that he couldn't reach the magazine release without doing a significant amount of moving around. And his ability to do that is not the same as say a a 22-year-old that just got out of the Marine Corps. So we ended up getting him set up. He ended up with a Sig 320 because it fit his hand. He could reach the controls. What fits you isn't what feels good in the gun store. What fits you is what you can reach and what you can operate effectively and what you can use to make hits when you need to. So that's I cringe when I hear people say, "Oh, I picked it up and it just felt so good." Yes, so can you operate all the controls? Now some folks, they just have giant paws and they can grab onto anything, except it always seems like it's always the biggest guys with the biggest hands that have the smallest guns, and they use a pronated thumbs forward grip, and here's their thumb and here's the end of the barrel, and I'm like, dude, it's making me nervous. So get something that fits you. But if you don't know what fits you means, if you think fits you is what feels good in a gun store, find somebody that knows what fits you means and have them go with you. They probably will.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest challenging hurdles, and the reason that I travel to the range with so damn many guns all the time for privates and group lessons and stuff is the shit people get sold. I mean, it always just baffles me when you get the littlest petitest girl. So let's give her the smallest 380 we have. Let's is there something smaller than the LCP we can give this girl? And she's she's struggling like all hell with the thing, or the vice versa. My husband said, or my brother said, or my nephew that's in the reserve said, or whatever the hell. It always kills me. I wish more people would just show up and take a class or two before they went and threw down retail money. Or go to a retailer where you can rent a bunch of stuff. For God's sake.
Yeah, so we've actually got so on this topic, we've actually got a really good question in the chat from Elizabeth Wolf in the live chat here. So to the point of finding a gun that fits you well beyond just feeling good in the hands, it's comfortable to hold. How does one test that? So if you're a novice and maybe you don't have somebody who does know, what are some things that you should look for when making that purchase to know that a gun fits you properly?
Well, so there you kind of have to be so tall to ride. So you have to know what your grip is going to look like to be effective. If you don't know what an effective grip is, you don't know how to build that grip yet, it's going to be hard for you to figure that out because you don't know where on the gun your hand's going to be.
Okay.
If you have some idea of how it is that you can grip the gun and effectively run that firearm, okay, then my hands are going to be here. Well, can I get enough finger on the trigger to operate the trigger without pushing it to the side, without contacting the side of the trigger, especially on something like a Glock with a real pointy edge on it, and you end up pushing on that right side and making all Glocks shoot left at that point while you press the trigger. Can you reach the magazine release? Can you reach the slide release? Can you operate the gun effectively as far as overcoming spring tension to operate the slide? I've had tons of people say, I can't use that gun because I can't rack the slide. Well, you can't rack the slide the way you're trying to do it. But how about if we get some bigger muscle groups involved and we give you a technique that makes things a little easier for you, and suddenly almost everybody can operate the slide and overcome spring tension on just about any gun they pick up, unless they've got some significant arthritis or injuries or something, But the average person, even the average person without a ton of hand strength or upper body strength, can still operate the slide on most guns. So yeah, it's difficult without having some idea of what it is you're doing to begin with, to be able to figure out which gun's going to fit your hand. And if you don't know that, I would highly recommend going and taking a class, even an NRA basic pistol class. If you haven't taken anything before, go take one of those. Most of the people teaching those love to trot out all their guns and leave them laying around and have them there for you to try. And but better yet, go find somebody that's vetted and does does some really solid training a little bit beyond that, maybe goes a little deeper, they'll be able to, they'll likely be able to set you up with a loaner. Otherwise, you can probably borrow something from somebody else. There's if you want it, you can probably get it. Most instructors are able to set people up with loaner guns, but yeah, it's not an easy question to answer for somebody that doesn't have any significant experience or any real useful experience in dealing with the gun. And if you don't know how to tell if it fits you, that's a really good indicator that you're probably not where you need to be as far as making that decision yet. Go get some training, get some time on some guns, and get some things figured out, and then you'll be able to figure out how to get your hands to fit the right gun for you.
No, that's an excellent response. So, just to break things down, or to step back a little bit from the gun purchase, just to hammer home on the let's find a trainer aspect. For those that might not know, the internet does have some horrible places, but it's got some great information as well. There are plenty of resources out there where if you don't know of a firearms instructor in your area, now, of course, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, you can go check out Ashton. Kent from Green Mountain Defense is also in Pennsylvania. But I just realized my accent came out really thick when I just said that. I apologize. I promise I'm more educated than that. But anyway, do your research. Not all firearms instructors are created equal. I have come across some instructors that I wouldn't trust with a rusty spoon. With that being said, get online, do your homework. When you find an instructor, there are usually after action reports or reviews or some type of feedback from previous students that can actually kind of help you make an educated decision before you choose an instructor. But like I said, in Pennsylvania, you've got, of course, Ashton here and Kent as well. So,
and a lot of other good people, by the way, too. The thing about the industry is that most of us know what we can help you with. And if you find somebody this is kind of I like this analogy. You ever go to a restaurant that has like Cajun and seafood and Chinese and every little thing in the world on the menu? You can almost assume that they're not doing any of that super duper awesome, unless they're, for some reason, like the world's greatest restaurant, right? You look at somebody's information and they say, hey, look, I provide private training. I provide these couple basic courses. I'm part of this conglomerate. We do these things. We do those things. Most of us kind of break our backs to tell you what we can and can't help you with, just in the hopes that nobody shows up expecting some product that they cannot get. So along the lines of the instructor conversation, Ashton, I know you're doing the student thing just as well as we all are out training. What's your best class of the year so far that you attended from the paying side of the line, if you will?
That would require me remembering what classes I've taken this year. Probably the best class that I was involved with this year was a class that I actually AI'd. So I was an assistant instructor, and I helped put the class on for Tom Givens. It's his 3-day instructor development class. I helped him run that class down in Miami in January, and it wasn't just because it was in Miami in January. As far as people out there doing training for normal, what did Pat write? Normal Earth people. There's nobody better than Tom Givens. He's really he has such a strong program between understanding legalities and understanding truly defining what the kind of threats are that are out there, what the realities of the run up to the use of force and the aftermath. If you're gonna take one class, take a class from Tom Givens, Range Master, and if you're looking to vet instructors, if they have range master instructor beside their name, that means something. Um, there's no paying to get through. You have to pass written tests. You have to pass shooting qualifications that aren't easy. They're harder than pretty much every law enforcement standard in the country. Um, there's nobody out there that's doing the whole package any better than Tom Gibbons.
Really cool. Yeah, that's an often repeated. I've yet to talk to anybody who had anything negative to say about that or didn't put Tom and Lynn on the high end of their list of professionals in the business. So that's really a good one. As far as the specialist thing, have you been to anybody for very particular or specialized training that you were blown away by in recent memory?
Well, Rob Hott, Rob Hott for shotgun. It doesn't get any better than that. Everything that I do, and Tim would tell you the same thing if he was here. Everything that we do is basically built upon the foundation. I've trained with Rob a number of times over the years, and it was his material and his delivery and his program that allowed that gave the foundational stability and the ability to take steps from there. I mean, his stuff it's mature, it's well thought out, it's extremely well executed. As far as specialty stuff goes, that's a huge thing right there.
Awesome. What about on the pistol? Are you living the dot life yet?
No, I'm in the process right now of doing that. Again, it's not something I want to do, but it's something I have to do. It's one of those deals where I had a conversation with Dave Harrington here pretty recently with Super Dave, and I asked him that question, and he said, "I'm still getting it done with irons, bro." And that's kind of where I'm at. But there are some huge benefits, and I want to bring it out for myself and see and see what I can get done with it. I want to see what its shortcomings are. I need to be able to speak to it. So by hopefully by the end of the week, I'll have an RMR2 on an M&P, and if I get all the stuff picked up, and we'll see how that goes. It's inevitable. It's coming. You can it's not stopping. Nobody's gonna say, "Oh, sorry, yeah, we're not doing that dot thing anymore." I'm not a fan personally. I've yet to be convinced that the technology of the sights themselves is fully matured, which is kind of why I've been waiting. RMR2s have seemed to disabuse themselves pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. I've broken a lot of dots over the years, a lot of dots, and I broke a couple of Type 1 RMRs real recently, real quickly, and that's how the folks at Trigicom were great. They sent me a Type 2 because they get tired of replacing fixing and trying to replace Type 1s. So hopefully this one will stand up a little better. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I do to them. But
quit putting them on shotguns.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. This optic right here it's a Swamp Fox. So this is kind of an entry level, what I would consider an entry level. It's not a go to Kmart and buy the $12 dot that they have there, but it's kind of an entry level to a kind of a useful quality level dot, and it's been holding up great. It's really impressed me with how well it's holding up. So I'm beating on it relentlessly, and it's taking it on the chin. So you never know. You never know what you're gonna get.
It's funny how there's everything breaks, right? I've ripped plenty of iron sights off of guns. I've seen plenty of things fail. it's always funny how people want to project their. So for me, the dot is the thing, and that's because I have a vision condition, and it really, really changes the dynamic of how a pistol works for me. And I had these problems before, but yet I really try not to project I need this tool, and therefore everybody on the planet must be on my safe wavelength, or you're wrong. It's always interesting to me how, dudes around always want to say, oh, if you're not on this, you're wrong, or if you're not doing that, you're wrong. So it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear a varying opinion on that every once in a while. And you're not the only guy by far that's Super Dave said, still getting it done with irons, right? There's plenty of world championship level shooters that can do it without a dot. So no argument there. What about other? Are you far down the path of the medical and the EDC med stuff? Are you living that as well? Or
I've had some training on medical. Caleb Causey from Lone Star Medics, great people, does a great job. I've been through several of his offerings, and then of course, going back again a number of years, going to TACCON, going to the tactical conference when it was still in Memphis, as a consumer. I did a bunch of medical stuff there from a number of different guys, whether they were trauma surgeons, ER docs, SF guys, all that kind of stuff. Been through a number of different medical training stuff like that. Plus, I have some stuff from a million years ago when I was a deep rescue stretcher bearer on the ship for a time. Yeah, I don't think that really counts, but but yeah, having medical gear, yeah, it's smart. If as far as carrying 3 tourniquets and a chest decompression needle and chest seals and quick clot and all that stuff on a daily basis, I can't meet you there. I'm not doing all that stuff yet. I just don't seem to have enough pockets. I don't have enough stuff, but I carry a discrete kit. Where I work, I can't carry a bunch of crap around anyway. But when I'm out and about, I have the stuff handy. I have as much as I can. It's kind of like guns, right? You carry as much gun as you can. You carry what you can. So. But if you go to the range, if you have a gun in your hand and you're going to, or you're going someplace where people are going to, and you don't have a med kit, you're wrong. If you don't know how to use a med kit, you're wrong. Go learn, go do it. You can save your life. You can save somebody else's life. Car accidents. I mean, car accidents happen way more often than the chances of us having a car accident happen to us or near us or whatever. I have a med kit strapped to the back of my motorcycle. Why not? Why? Because, well, why wouldn't I? All that kind of stuff. So as far as medical stuff goes, yeah, I'm on board. I'm 100% on board. The life you're still saving lives, right? That's what we're trying to do here with the gun stuff. That's what you're trying to do with the medical stuff. And to be perfectly honest with you, the probabilities of needing medical is higher than often higher than needing a gun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have preached that for quite some time, and I'm going to admit, there's people in this world. If we're looking at the pro or anti-gun debate, there's going to be people that just refuse to own a gun. There's going to be even people that don't want us to own guns, and okay, that's their prerogative. They have that right to believe and desire that. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but okay, whatever. I would have a lot more respect for the diehard gun grabbers who would actually go out and get that medical training. If you're not going to carry a gun, at least if you're not going to carry the means to inflict violent action of self-defense on other people, then damn it, you should have the capacity and the capability to render aid to people who have had violence done against them, be it intentional or accidental, such as a car accident. So,
yeah, it's always well, it's the same reoccurring theme, right? Some people are totally willing to subcontract their safety to government hired third parties, and some people are willing to take that into their own hands. So it just depends on which side of that you want to be on. No disrespect to cops or soldiers or anything like that, but nobody's gonna be there in your moment of oh shit, right? Like unless you just get lucky and there happens to be a cop 11 feet from you, but or an EMT or a trauma doc or whatever. So
Well, if you start researching response times for your area, um, if a person does that, I think what they're going to find is you're not going to be pleased. The response times are significant, and average response times nationally are significant. And you know, it's the cavalry is not as close to you as you think they are, and bad things happen really, really quickly.
oh, as a matter of fact, I think we covered that in our first episode, didn't we, Kent?
first episode, the first episode after the 60 other ones. Yeah,
Yeah, the episode 1.3 where we had to try it a couple times. I'm sorry, I didn't push the right button. But no, Ashton, you bring up a great point. I mean, hell, look at the mass shooting that took place in Dayton, Ohio, right? The cops were around the corner, on scene, and responding to the threat in under 5 minutes. The specific time escapes me right now, but even still, there weren't enough cops on scene to start rendering the appropriate amount of aid to the people who were shot.
Yep, you're on your own.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not.
Yep.
You can believe it. That's cool. That's up to you, but doesn't make it any less true.
Yep. Exactly.
So we're hitting about that time. Ashton, why don't you hit us up with just what you got coming up? If you've got some dates on the training calendar left, where you're going to be for the balance of the year, kind of thing. All your links and all that are going to be in the show notes and all that. In case folks are wondering or looking for stuff on Ashton, you can find them all in the notes for this episode. But do your plugs, man. You haven't done any shameless self promotion really at all tonight, so you got to get some of that in.
I'm really bad at being a hack.
Yeah.
Well, unless I'm teaching, I'm a hack. So September 21st coming up here. What? Wow, a week and a half. Get there quick. Culpeper, Virginia at FPF training. The TNA show rides again. Tim Chandler and I will be putting on one-day shotgun skills class in Culpeper, Virginia at FPF training. Thanks to John Murphy giving us a slot to do that down there. Then December 14th, I'll be in the People's Republic of New York near Peekskill on-site firearms training. Ben's been nice enough to invite me up to run a one-day shotgun class on my own. That'll be my shotgun performance block. That's one day. One day running the gauge, pushing hard. After that, that's pretty much all I'm gonna have time for, aside from personal coaching, because my normal work schedule goes absolutely crazy in the fall. And then then 2020 is coming. We've got some cool stuff going on in 2020. I'll be presenting at TACCon in Dallas with Tim Chandler again this year in March. If you haven't been to TACCon, get there. It's really, really worth it. It's really worth it. There's so many good people in one place at one time. If you just throw a dart at the board in every block of the 3 days, and doesn't matter where you go or what's going on, there's more than one thing to pick from at a given time. You're not going to go wrong. You're going to get something good. And then the rest of the 2020 schedule isn't finalized yet. I'm still working on some stuff. We still have a couple of slots open for travel stuff. So if you want us in your town, get a hold of me, and we'll try and get out there. But that's filling up quick too. I was just laughing about that, about how, wow, it's September and 2020 is filling up. So hopefully that schedule will be out here soon. There's, as you know, it takes time to finalize things, especially when you're doing road classes. There's just a lot of moving parts to that stuff.
We're gonna have to have you come a couple hours east over here and welcome you to the center of Pennsylvania one of these days.
Dude, absolutely. Sign me up. That's easy.
Right?
That's a lot closer than Dallas.
It is. Newsflash: Mechanicsburg to Altoona is closer than Dallas. I threw out Altoona because I don't know the name of the town, but I got in the ballpark, right? Ish.
Where I'm at?
Yeah, where?
No, I'm in Beaver Falls, dude. I'm near Beaver Falls. I'm like 3.5 hours from out there.
Right. Still though. Still way better. You're in like West Virginia almost.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Well, TJ, you got anything to wrap it up with?
No, man. I think we're good. As always, it's great to have the chat active.
Yeah.
You guys do stay tuned, though. Kent and I have been in talks. We are talking about moving the show to a different night of the week to accommodate the schedules and have more participation in the live chat. We truly enjoy all the questions we get. There are no such things as stupid questions. So we appreciate all walks of life, all skill levels to come on out and ask their questions of not only Kent and I, but our guests as well. Ashton, thank you very much for showing up to us and doing the show here. As always, we will have the show published on Spotify and Apple Podcast here in the next day. So if you missed the live show, by all means, feel free to tune in on that. If you're new to the channel, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow Kent and myself on Instagram and our own respective YouTube channels. I am the Sling'N Ginger, and Kent is Green Mountain Defense. But other than that, man, that's all I've got. So why don't you take us home?
Sweet. So if you continue to hear the sound of our voices and you haven't been inspired yet, do something to make yourself a little bit better every day. I don't know what that is. If it's losing weight, if it's learning something, if it's going back to school, if it's getting up a gun, if it's getting some med stuff. We want y'all here. We love y'all. We really appreciate the support. Thank you so much to our loyal fans. And thank you so much to the folks in chat tonight. We had kind of one of those moments where we had the opportunity to bring somebody new in the fold here in chat. I don't know how many people were watching or looking at that, but we have a young lady asking all kinds of basic questions. And instead of disrespect and ridiculousness in our chat, our fans are treating her with open arms. And that is what I would expect, and that is what I appreciate. So thanks very much for you guys being so accommodating. And you know who you are. I'm not going to say your name online, but welcome aboard. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks, everybody. Take care and good night.